Why does Morgan Ranstrom need to see this Anne-Laure Chris Mayer clip? You like that little finger slide there at the end? I'm getting good at this. That's in honor of his slide guitar techniques. Morgan Ranstrom, he's with me. This is part 2 of our conversation. Go back and get the first one. Why in public? Why do anything in public? We do it because the muse needs us to work some stuff out. We talk about why we do it in public, why we don't, how we make those choices, how we figure out how they're going to stack, whether it's music, whether it's money, whether it's business, all the way forward in time. A brilliant extension of our prior conversation. Jack Forehand, roll some clips.
Still feel late? I don't think you ever stop feeling late unless you were actually early. And the people that I know who were actually early, for the rest of us, I don't think we get to ever feel like we're not late. You just go and start now and let it compound and see what comes of it. What is there to lose? There's nothing to lose. I had this mindset of like, maybe not that I would put this on others, but I just put it on myself, that I had to be like so deeply the expert in something before I even shared a glimmer of what I was actually interested in. And I was caught really flat-footed.
Learning in public is so powerful, right? If you create this habit of taking any idea that you're curious about and putting it out there. And this is a great way to see if there's resonance between the things you're curious about and what other people are curious about.
If I run something through AI, it all of a sudden feels very whitewashed. It's going from auto-tuning to playing live. But I do want to hear your voice live. And that's because that's where the vulnerable stuff happened. Writing about that led to some really good friendships of people who would reach out to me or that I would connect with. Or I still have some of my closest friends I never would have met without that kind of prompting some sort of connection.
You put it out on Twitter, like she said, it doesn't have to be a book or a well thought out essay. It could just be very simple posts. I found this was interesting, 2-3 points, and then other people contribute. And I've met a number of people where we then have shared research notes later on certain ideas, or people that are now regular correspondents.
You're watching Just Press Record in an Epsilon Theory joint right here on Cultish Creative YouTube. I'm Matt Ziegler. This is an Oh Snap Guess What I Saw episode. You might already know because I'm inviting him back. This is part 2, but I'm showing him a clip that I had to get his opinion on. What can I say? And I had 2, which is why I said he needs to come back. Now, if you missed part 1, go back and find it. If not, and surprising for him, I got him some poetry for this second part because you didn't think I was just going to give you one intro. Right? You knew I was coming with the heat here today.
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming. Well, I have poetry for you, sir. I'd like to woo you with this poetry. Let's see where I can start. I can't be the one you want on a podcast this afternoon, but I'll be the one you wish you had recorded a podcast with tomorrow. Because it'll take me a few weeks here to get this out. So you'll wish tomorrow, but patience, young Morgan's son, because you like my poetry so far? I got some more for you.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, hit me.
Okay. Or how about, I don't know what you've been told about Just Press Record, but I hope it's not true. Why'd I let them YouTube commenters tell you things about this show? Like, am I a psyop or base or crypto scheme? No, I should have told that straight to you.
That's beautiful.
You like that one too? I got
like
one
that,
more
yeah.
for you. I got one more for you.
This is like a cover gone wrong.
It's a Weird Al personally attacked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And not a Weird Al cover band personally attacked.
Weirder Al. Yeah.
Weirder Al. Last but not least, where will I stand? Beyond hope, beyond hate. It welcomes us in. I'll take us lower. Let's be honest. This show is a dumpster fire. Be sent with me into my YouTube funeral pyre. It can only mean one thing. Stone Arch Rivals, lead guitar player, Trailhead Planners, chief visionary, and resident LinkedIn video creator, Morgan Ranstrom. It's part 2. How you doing?
That was amazing, Matt. Thank you. Yeah.
I hope at least a few of your friends half appreciate that as much as I did making.
There'll be 2 of them, and it'll be glorious. That's all we need.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
Audience of 2, 3 people smile. I've done my work for the day. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time since we recorded our last episode together.
Ages.
Anything
I think I've
dramatic
been
happened to you?
sitting here this whole time.
It's like you haven't moved. Haven't even stretched your legs really in so many ways.
I know,
Hey,
right?
you're looking good. Haircut since the last time I saw you?
Is that a ball joke, Matt?
No. Genuine question. I'm trying to preserve the idea that we didn't just record these back to back.
You're right.
And anyways,
Yeah, no, I got to shave.
okay,
We're
looks
doing all
good.
right.
Looks
Yeah.
good. You're looking younger than you were an hour ago when we started
Right.
this. So
Right.
I have this clip. I really wanted to share it with you. You're gonna tell me afterwards. And as I was just joking, it's my show. I can do what I want. I realized this. I was looking for a clip to do with you, and I had two, and I couldn't decide. So now you're back, part two. This is now. Do you know Anne-Laure at all? Did you see her
No.
book? Or you were? Oh my God.
Well, I saw the
It's
book
great.
in the backdrop, and I recognized that book.
Okay, it's been making the rounds online for a
Yeah.
while now, and
Yeah.
all right. So there's that, and then Chris Mayer. Do you know him? He's sort of in our financial sphere, but I don't know if you know him. Another
I
writer
didn't
too.
see him in the clip.
He's
but
not.
I know that name. I
Yeah.
know that name.
Talks briefly at the end of the clip. Chris. So both of these people, I can't wait to introduce you to them. Anne-Laure, because ex-Google, and then writes this incredible book. So she goes to become a neurologist, something with like a literal brain scientist.
Yeah.
And she goes, I can't teach you this, but you can learn alongside me.
Mm.
And she basically goes and gets her PhD in public, sharing what she's doing and trying to teach it to people as she goes. And it
That's
was
so
just
cool.
all of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of people in a book deal later.
Yeah.
She ends up on Just Press Record. That's the path, clearly.
Gotcha. NBD. Yeah, we're almost
Yeah.
there, Matt.
We're almost there. And then Chris, the best part about Chris is he writes this brilliant, concentrated investing book for like business owners should read this stuff. His book, 100 Baggers, you might have come across that.
Oh,
or
I
heard
read that. When did
That's-
that come out? Was that 15
a minute
years
ago,
maybe?
probably
Matt?
15 years ago.
Yeah.
It feels like
I remember that. Great book.
that's Chris's book. Now, what a lot of people don't also know is he also wrote a phenomenal series of books. There's at least two of them now on this thing called General Semantics, which is this obscure lost to time philosophy. And he's like the king of the general semantics like universe, where they think he's the
That.
greatest guy because he helps shine this light on them. But it's this incredible idea of like time binding and how we take thoughts and package them to understand them later in life. And it, of
You just
course,
can't make this stuff up. I always people are so much more interesting than we give any of us credit for. So much more complicated and interesting. You're digging into fresh ground, Matt. I love this. This is
All right.
fresh earth.
I hate how, back to the point you were making last time, we've compressed or flattened so much and AI has done such a job of expediting the flattening that we're experiencing, that there's just all this rich, completely insane detail that if everybody wants to record the same podcast or NPR or whatever style interview with somebody, it's like you get the same damn stories over and over again.
That's what's interesting. It's like it's not like it's not spreading the wealth of human wisdom. It's almost like compressing human wisdom.
I don't need any more tips and tricks.
There's not less opportunity to mine the wealth of human wisdom. There's actually more opportunity because we're going to miss more and more of it. And then you see the trends go through social media and stuff. It's fascinating.
It's truly fascinating. So on that note, Jack Forehand, let's get down to it. Let's watch this clip together. Anne-Laure, take it away.
Learning in public is so powerful, right? If you create this habit of taking any idea that you're curious about and putting it out there, and it doesn't have to be a book yet, right? It doesn't even have to be a newsletter. It could be a quick post on Threads or Twitter just saying, oh, I just read this and it made me wonder that. And that's it. This is a great way to see if there's resonance between the things you're curious about and what other people are curious about. This is also a great way to have other people contribute other ideas that are connected that could be interesting to explore. And that could be a great way to plant the first seeds of a potential cluster that might expand afterwards. So I would highly recommend, instead of working on ideas with the garage door closed, to try and open that door a little bit and making that process of learning and exploring a little bit more public.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely second that. And I have so much like real world experience where that exact thing has happened, whether I was researching a particular business or something, and you put it out on Twitter, like she said, it doesn't have to be a a book or a well thought out essay. It could just be very simple posts. I found this was interesting, 2, 3 points, and then other people contribute. And I've met a number of people where we then have shared research notes later on certain ideas, or, people that are now regular correspondents. And that's how it started. We both had a curiosity about a particular name or company idea or whatever. And we just in the process of exploring that, it's formed that relationship. So yeah, that's very, very valuable and uniquely to our times. I mean, to think about it, we have a lot of avenues to potentially bring in like-minded people.
So first off, I did have to practice a lot, and credit to my brother for being married to a lovely French woman, and shout out Pia, my French niece, so that I had a shot in hell at pronouncing her name. And I
You did
still
way better than I would have.
Yeah, it's still a brief moment of panic every time I say it, but I feel like that thing where you over enunciate the pronunciation. I'm like, oh, you mean Anne-Laure le Cunff? Like,
You can't help it.
I think I'm like rolling an R in a Mexican restaurant or something, sounding like a moron.
At least you weren't like the 70-year-old who just talks louder, to try to get someone from another country to understand them,
We've had a couple of those in my family.
Yeah.
Too.
That's when I mean 70. There's a specific individual I'm thinking of, and he's very deeply related to me.
Well, on that note, you hear this clip. What jumps at you first? There's so much inside of this. What jumps out at you first?
Okay, so this is like something you and I have talked a lot about personally. The building in public. Carl Richards, a mentor and friend, Carl Richards, calls it playing in traffic, which is always an example I've loved because sometimes you get hit too, right? And it feels dangerous. It's an idea that gives me extreme discomfort, and I've had to train myself to get over that, and I don't think I fully am, or even doing it to the fullest of my capacity. But I was totally unprepared for I think the revolution of the last 10 or 15 years of where the people who built in public almost without becoming the experts first, almost got more attention. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like they got more attention, which allowed them to do more work developing the topic. I had this mindset of like, maybe not that I would put this on others, but I just put it on myself that I had to be like so deeply the expert in something before I even shared a glimmer of what I was actually interested in. And I was caught really flat-footed with that. And then I went through like the resentment phase of, well, they don't know what they're talking about or whatever. And then at some point you accept it, and then you just start doing it too. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I think, I wrote my first book and told no one about it, and then like didn't market it. And you can guess how far that went. And I think it's a really good book, but I just didn't share anything about it. I didn't write in public by any means. And in fact, the publisher I worked with was like actively arguing for me not to do it. Like, don't share anything so people buy copies of the book. Well, guess what? If they don't know about the book, they don't buy the book. And it wasn't until I started a newsletter that I've now shut down for the most part, called The Value of Advice, that I started kind of sharing in public. And The Value of Advice was me trying to navigate like how I wanted to build my wealth management firm. And I had questions, and I thought the best way for me to explore those questions was to write them down and see if it resonated with some other people. And that led to some really interesting ideas, really interesting thoughts. One thing that I wrote a lot about was Dunbar's number, which is like any human has the capacity for only so many relationships, really. And you think about relationships as like your core relationships. There's only so many of those you can handle. And then there's like how many people you can know their names and a little bit about them. And then there's like a whole another few hundred more of like acquaintances, right? And there's kind of set limits to that. And writing about that and sharing ideas of like how to build a wealth advisory firm led to some really good friendships of people who would reach out to me or that I would connect with through writing that, probably like you are with this podcast of, I still have some of my closest friends I never would have met without that kind of prompting some sort of connection. And that's a really fun thing because it's like I don't even think about that newsletter much anymore, but I have the fruits of that labor in the connections that were built. And so, yeah, it's a powerful concept, and it's really freeing when you really get down to, the dirt of it. And I think it's something that like in our industry, we've almost had to start doing as we all kind of start marketing ourselves and stuff. But it's so fun to share with people who maybe are, maybe most of their experience is a little more W-2 related or different industry, and they don't promote themselves yet. They don't share what they're interested in. And it's like, I tell my wife all the time, it's like, I just saw someone with this idea. You've been telling me about this for 15 years. It's like, get yourself out there, talk about it on LinkedIn so that people can know like all these fascinating things that she's into. So we're still kind of at the beginning of this stage.
How do you feel? And I'm curious, maybe not with the book, but maybe with the newsletter. Did you feel like for either of those, or even with the band today, even with the creative pursuits, where you feel late? You're like, I'm late to this party. Everybody figured this out before me. This is a terrible idea. I say this as a person who started a YouTube channel a year ago. Like, how do you reconcile the feeling of late with the knowledge of, if you're late, there's still 80% of humanity that hasn't even conceived that this is a viable thing to do in any way, shape, or form?
I still feel late. I don't think you ever stop feeling late unless you were actually early. And the people that I know who were actually early, I've got a client who was the first so-and-so thought leader on YouTube, and I won't say the industry, but he was like the first one. And everybody before that just had like books or, whatever. And he had YouTube. And he's huge because of it, just huge. And he's like, it was just a happy accident. It's like he didn't know what YouTube was about to become or what this would do for his career. He was just looking for like somewhere to share some more of his ideas. He was actually early. For the rest of us, I don't think we get to ever feel like we're not late. You just go anyways.
What's the difference between that and a rat race? Like, why is it not a rat race to go anyways when you're late?
Well, I think, and this goes back to other conversations we've had, Matt, but like everything compounds. So start now, right? And if you wish you were somewhere at, let's say 45, that you could have been if you were 35 or, had started at age 35, well, start now and we can really anticipate 55, right? So that's one. It's just kind of like that, start now and let it compound and see what comes of it. What is there to lose? There's nothing to lose. I'm trying to think of like basically all the things that get in my way. Yeah.
I think
what harm comes from this? It's like, what harm comes from this? This is good stuff.
What harm, what is there to lose is an understated question to ask, especially knowing, and I go back to Hal Hirschfeld and the future self work and the episode he did with Julia Carrion on this, because it's probably the age gap is just right. And Julia had just gone through some stuff. So some of the stories she tells just hit so friggin' hard, where she's like, oh yeah, me at 55 was none of the things that me at 45 wanted.
Yeah.
And same thing, like me at 43, totally different set of things that what me at 33 wanted. Right. So if I also know that 53 over me, like, isn't going to give a crap at a lot of quantifiable things, some more than others. I don't want to be broke
Mhm.
or homeless or something, but like,
Mhm.
there's a minimum threshold in there. But there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of other stuff though that it's like, I'm going to use the word regret softly. Like there's friendships, there's other things that it's like, oh, I let those go, or those got away from me in my 20s and those didn't carry on. So now me at 43 is really proactive and trying to boost that fray, because it's like, oh,
Mhm.
this actually brought me genuine joy across life, and then I stopped doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Let's just do that part again.
Let's do that part again.
There's no other value in it aside from
Yeah.
I might enjoy life this much more.
Right. Yeah.
But if I don't know what I'm going to want anyway, why does that matter?
Right. Yeah. As if you're going to like perfectly define it at this
Right.
state in your life, which that I think like leans into the uncertainty of it all. Like there's a certain subset of us at age 19 who know they want to be doctors. they do the, the medical school route. And I'm like, God bless them. I'm sure some of them chose wrong for them, right? Like that happens. And some of them
Yeah.
chose right. They were just like born to be a doctor or physician. I've never like lived my life like that. It's like you kind of, you do your best, but it's the similar, I don't know what I want to be at 55. I love what I am doing right now. And it's more just like you try to take the best guesses you can, I think. The best guesses you can. And that's where I see like this kind of creating in public of I want to explore. I don't know what's possible down this path, but I'm going to explore some of it aloud and share it. And I think it means you don't have to just stay in the corner of the universe in which you currently exist. There's like a mobility function there that is new historically. And we don't have to stay confined. Just start exploring something and sharing something, and you might find some cool connections. You might learn some new stuff. You might shut it down and go some other path, or it might be the next big thing for you or society. And that's just a really freeing idea. An overwhelming idea, which is I think also why people don't do it. It's like that's really overwhelming.
Right. Best in this case, and it ties to mobility, and what I want to say is best is a directional decision, I feel like, it's partly a tactical decision, because I'm going to write this blog post and share it, or I'm going to put this thing on LinkedIn and share it. I'm going to do this little micro risk, but there's a directional orientation to the opening up to the public of this. How do you contrast that to choosing to be a hermit or whatever the opposite is, which I don't necessarily judge as a negative path? It's just you and I both share something where we want to directionally continue to be opening this or testing it against others, not just our own, whatever's in between our ears. What is
Yeah. Well, nothing against if you got to disappear for 2 years and come out with the next
Sure.
great album, hit us with some Bon Iver stuff, like do it, I'm not against that. I think I try to personally live in the balance where I've got some long-term stuff cooking that I'm not sharing, but I'm going to share iterations as I go along, is what I've learned, is that's the balance. And it kind of allows the compounding to take place and exploring the curiosities. And but at the same time, like there is a time and a place to like, okay, I got to put the filters on or put the blinders on and do the like longer term meaningful work. Like we can't just like, tweet our way to knowledge. Like at some point you got to read the book and do the work and stuff like that. So as long as it's supportive of, it's making sure that like, the posting is supportive of more learning and more connection and all that stuff.
I'm glad you took it there, because I was about to take it there too. So great minds, bonus points. You can't just empty calorie put it out there. We started before we press record today, just talking about AI and the compression, and it's a little bit in the part 1 version of this too. The human experience has to enter into the creative process before the thing shows up out there, or else you're probably not going to get any value of it. And anybody who encounters it, it's only going to be if they can combine their human experience with it for them to get value out of it. What do you do to force the human experience into things you either consume or create or both?
What do I do? What do you mean by force the human experience? Tell me more about that.
Make sure it's not passive. Make sure you're actively involved.
I think that's like, does this feel a little uncomfortable for me? Maybe I don't feel like the expert yet. And I'm just writing down as I explore. Or I read a book by the expert and it just hit me right in the nose. And I want to write about that, but I'm not the expert, right? That feels really raw at times. I think, yeah, it's like where the discomfort is, because, and I, like all of us, just bringing AI into this, and I am not against using AI to support work or art or whatever. That's great. But like my stuff, if I run something through AI, it all of a sudden feels very whitewashed. And that also feels really comfortable. That's what's so interesting, is it feels really comfortable to be behind that perfect fence that the technology created for you, as if you were the expert all of a sudden. Or you've been doing this work for years. And I think that's what's so tantalizing about it, is it feels so safe all of a sudden. And to step out from that space, it's like you're recording music and it's going from auto-tuning to playing live, which, once again, not against the little auto-tuning, but I do want to hear your voice live. I do want to hear that. And that's because that's where the vulnerable stuff happens. And that's where you get a little scratch, or your voice is a little tired, or you get emotional and it cracks. And that's good stuff. We had a show the other night and we're playing outside in southern Minnesota, and there's 2 songs in a row where I wrote one, the kind of hard stories actually, but I wrote one about my dad's grandma and that family, and a lead singer had written a song about her grandpa, I think, and there was fireflies dancing as we played these 2 songs, and I got really emotional on stage, like really, it just like hit me, and you can't auto-tune your way to that. Like, I could have just typed in the progression and kind of what I want the song to sound like, and sang a little bit and have an auto-tune on, and you'd come up with like a recorded version of that song, recorded version, a created version of that song. But it wasn't that. I want that. I want 10 people out there. Not a lot. 10 people on a flippin' hot, muggy Minnesota night. Give me that.
Give me that over and over again. There's something about the way that it translates. There's something about, do you know the singer Charles Bradley? Man, I hope I'm getting this right. You know him?
Yeah.
Did we talk about the Changes cover ever? The Black Sabbath. It came up because Ozzy just passed away.
Yeah.
I went back and rewatched it. So first off, this guy like makes his living as like a James Brown impersonator,
Right.
Otis Redding, like all that stuff. So he's just like, he's a novelty act at best for a huge part of his career. And then he starts doing the solo stuff. He ends up with Daptones, that whole scene like in New York, and that becomes
Right.
It's just the voice kills, right? So kind of like Johnny Cash playing Hurt by Trent Reznor, and you get a totally different version of the song. They lay Changes by Black Sabbath on the guy, and he's never heard them.
Yeah.
Never heard them. Doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Just sees these words and goes, I already lived this. Like, I lived these words. And he does this bone-chilling version, big soul version of Changes. Because he's like, I lived this song this
Yeah.
heavy metal song.
Right.
This sludgy doom heavy metal song.
Right.
I, Soul Singer, have lived. And it's one of my favorite versions of that song is him doing this cover. But it's because the richness inside of the lyrics is his experience imposed over the top of them.
Right.
And then that's what allows him to make that connection.
Right.
Right. There's no way Sabbath, no way Geezer was like writing that song or whoever wrote it. It was like,
Yeah.
I see the future of this one.
Right. Right.
This
That
is
reminds
where
me of
this is gonna go.
when the Who got I think it's the Kennedy Award nomination, and they played that big concert in DC.
Yeah.
So this went a long time ago, but Betty LaVette comes out and sings Love Reign Over Me.
Right.
And like Pete Townsend's just like bawling.
Right. He's crying on the stage. Yeah. Or on the side of
Richard
the stage.
Daltrey, Richard Daltrey is just like crying.
I haven't thought about
And
this
you
yet.
don't realize like, because that's a beautiful song, and obviously
Right.
the Who does it. The Who, right? Like they're the Who. It's incredible. She probably takes it, and I'm sure Pete Townsend probably wrote it, is thinking, I didn't know it could go here.
Right.
I didn't know it could go here, and it just hits, and like you can't watch it without just bawling yourself. It's unbelievable, and I still listen to that version all the time. Yeah.
Do we put
Cool
it,
how art compounds like that too. Good art.
but is that part of putting it in public is because the simple admission that you don't know where it will go, you've concentrated a bunch of things into a message and you've
Yeah.
sent it out, and it's a lottery ticket. You have no idea. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're going to be the Who or the other things are going to happen, but it's just like, you send it down the path because you don't know where it would go, but you send it down with the best intentions, and sometimes it'll amaze you because of the reception to what you did, and sometimes you'll see somebody else's interpretation and you'll just go, if all I did was play a small part on getting it to there, it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just a testament to the creative experience which I think the creative experience can be the entrepreneurial experience, can be the just local community experience, right? It's just, you give yourself up to uncertainty and a little bit of randomness. And it's beautiful. And I think about that of like being a solo artist versus being in a band. And in a solo artist, I get to control everything. And that's kind of cool sometimes. I kind of think of that as like a single post. But once I'm in the band, it's like, well, this person hits this drum this way, and so that makes me play the guitar part this way, which makes the singer sing it way different than I sang it when I wrote it, because she's got a different thing and sees something different in the song, and it's I love that. That's so untamed. And then you go play it live, and it's like, well, there's the studio version and there's the live version, and that's really cool too. I was kind of thinking of like a book writing as like a solo endeavor, and then I realized that that's not either, because, when I wrote my book, it's like I had let's call him like a creative editor sort of thing. He just kind of helped me stay on top of where this book was headed and more of on the content. And then I had line editors and all that stuff. So, and it went through multiple rounds of revision with just myself. And so like, I still read that book and I'm like, that doesn't sound always like my writing. And it is. It's just like, I didn't know my writing couldn't get there on its own. Like I needed other humans and what they were going through at that time to kind of take it to that level. And you could think of that like as in being a partner in a business or working with a good team or whatever it is. It's like, you just don't know what comes of this. And if we're going back to the main point of like kind of sharing in public, you just don't, you give yourself up to that. There's a level of humility of, I'm just going to let this play out and evolve and explore. And that's really fun. Terrifying, but fun.
Terrifying, but fun. Let's play the game. Guess why I had to show you this Anne-Laure Cunff Chris Mayer clip. See if what I wrote down is as good as the last one I wrote down. I can't do that twice. Set myself up for failure. Why do you think I wanted to share this clip with you and talk about it today?
I think you and I have had some personal conversations on this where I was like, Matt, I can't do this. And you're like, you gotta start just like putting it out there, my friend. You just gotta put it out there. And you shared your concept of the creative flywheel, right? Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Creative flywheel, which really inspired me. And that kind of helped me put together of like, I was always looking for themes in my work or thinking I needed like perfect structure to, if I put this idea, then the next idea's got to, and it's just like, no, it can be a flywheel. Like I can just put stuff out because I want to in that moment. And I don't really know what comes of any of it. And if I want to follow some thread, I follow some thread, and that's great too. So putting that together with like, okay, playing in traffic, working in public, and then Matt Ziegler's concept of the creative flywheel, right? Those are all so helpful to me, so inspirational. And I think for me, it was like you put it all together, and then you add maybe some War of Art to keep going, Stephen Pressfield, and then who's the shipping guy?
Seth Godin or
Godin.
Pick your shipper.
Yeah, on Godfather, Seth Godin.
Godfather.
Then you got to ship it all, right? And so like you put it together, get a product, and you ship it. That's good stuff, man. I just put you on a pedestal with those people. This is,
I mean, considering
who you are to me.
Oh, well, sir.
Yes.
I mean, even inside of that, one of the biggest realizations that I've had in the last however many years over this with that creative flywheel idea was just the first and last step. I felt like I think I've told this to you, I felt like I was always leaving that out, was the muse. Mm-hmm. Very, very Pressfield, very much prayer to the muse situation of going, no. Accept that the muse exists outside of you and your curiosity is just going to notice. But you're supposed to notice, and it might be totally different from what you were worried about yesterday.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of work meetings and then client meetings and now a bunch of business planning meetings and another client meeting. And then I got to record another thing in a totally different space for a totally different podcast. And like talking about macro, like that's what's ahead of me in this afternoon before I pick up a nephew from daycare. And like inside of all of these things, the muse is just giving me what's grabbed my curiosity. And the question is, can I just pluck one of those things and actually run with it for a second?
Yeah.
To be human and reflect on it. And then most importantly, comes external. So you got to get up and do it again. I think that's the last part of being like, all right, put it down, put it in the box, ship it, whatever, go find the muse again. And she could be anywhere. So I wrote down, just, you got to make it a habit to do in public, which funny enough is part of that creative flywheel too. Part of the idea of shipping, part of the idea of finding the muse is just the habit, the ritual de lo habitual, if I can get Juane's addiction into the mix here with this one.
Also made me think of Elizabeth Gilbert, who, Big Magic, right?
Yeah.
Phenomenal book on the creative process, Big Magic. And like the muse comes, and if you don't, catching the firefly, you don't try to catch that thing and write it down or play the song or start the business or whatever, it just goes to somebody else. Like it doesn't.
Oh yeah.
I think there's like a
thieves in the night. It's just passing by.
It just passes by, right? And it's not yours either.
No.
You don't own it. And I think there was there's so many ideas that I feel like I had 10, 20 years ago that other people had more success with, right? I'm not immune. I think any creative has that experience. It's a somewhat resentful experience. And that book got me over that because it wasn't mine. And even though they wrote it down or whatever, it's not theirs either. People might think it is, but it wasn't. It was like this different collective consciousness thing. And that led to a lot of self-forgiveness for me. And it also led me like, okay, if I missed that part of the muse, like, well, I'll catch the next wave. That's okay. It's still there.
It comes in waves. Morgan, people want to find you, bug you on the internet. Where should they look you up?
MorganRanstrom.com, Morgan on Purpose on Instagram and YouTube, Morgan Ranstrom, I think CFP on LinkedIn. And then the band is Stone Arch Rivals, and we're on Spotify.
Spotify, all the places. Support local music. And hey, support your local financial planner.
And if you're not local, still listen.
Listen.
I can be local to you.
We're depending on that.
Yeah.
Morgan, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for joining us. Like, comment, and hey, subscribe below to Cultish Creative on YouTube if you haven't already. As the good compliance people want me to remind you, Matt Ziegler, that's me, is a managing director at Sunpoint Investments. The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sunpoint Investments. No information on this podcast should be construed as investment advice. Securities discussed in the podcast may be holdings of clients of Sunpoint Investments. I hope you've been entertained. I hope you found this useful. I hope you talk to a professional before you try any of this stuff at home. And most of all, I hope you've subscribed. Be nice to each other out there. And don't forget, head over to cultishcreative.com and let's make curiosity a habit together. And I'm out.